Hello and welcome to TOI Books. Today we have with us actor and author Soha Ali Khan, who has recently released her new children's book in the Inni and Bobo series with her partner Kunal Kemmu. Soha has also narrated the audio version of the book Inni and Bobo Find Each Other along with Kunal for Audible. Earlier in 2017, she had published her memoir and debut book, The Perils of Being Moderately Famous. So welcome Soha and congratulations on your new book.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a bit more about the Inni and Bobo books, and surely they are an outcome of your daughter Inaya's love for pets. So are the books also inspired from real life incidents?
It's not like they're inspired from a real life incident. It's not like we took Inaya to an adoption center and adopted a dog, which is what the story of Inni and Bobo Find Each Other is. But it's certainly inspired by her love for animals, because she told Kunal one night, she said, "Tell me a story." And I normally take physical books and read them to her, but he likes to invent stories, and he invented this story, keeping the fact that she likes to be the central character in mind and keeping in mind her love for animals. And, the story just sort of came together, and then we thought, why not take this bigger and have it published? And then an audiobook was the next logical step, because, we're huge fans of Audible and being able to listen to stories. So it came about that way. It didn't happen, but we have adopted many dogs as a family. There are 4 dogs in Patodi. My mother has 2 in Delhi. We work with World for All, which is a wonderful NGO that homes and rescues stray animals. And Inaya has been exposed to all of this. And she has her own intrinsic sense of love for animals that extends beyond, the furry, cute ones. It goes right up to or down to chipkalis and machars and all of them. She loves them all. So it's a story that resonated with her. It had no conflict. It had no evil characters. It had no none of that. And she liked that at that age of her life. So it just sort of happened. And we're very happy to have and very proud of the fact that we have this sort of, on our bookshelf and in our audio library.
It's said that writing simple, writing easy is really tough. So do you agree with it? How was your experience of writing a children's book this time?
It is different because my style of writing is usually more descriptive, and I use a lot of words, and I enjoy playing with words and, using alliteration and lots of things. And that's what I've done in Perils of Being Moderately Famous. And one of the positive feedbacks of the book was that the style of writing people appreciated. I've also done a lot of reading and writing as a student, having studied history and written long, long essays. So to be concise is a struggle, to be succinct and to be able to put your thoughts simply and yet touch somebody emotionally or make them feel a certain way or engage them in a very simple way, without being too flowery, was a challenge for me. And it helped to have, Kunal do this with me. I really don't think it would have been possible for him to do this without me and for me to do it without him. And we've challenged each other many times. He's like, you write one by yourself. And I've been like, you write one by yourself. And we can't, it has to be done together.
Right. That's exactly what I was about to ask you. How was the collaboration with Kunal on writing a book?
Frustrating, challenging. And also, at the end of the day, has enhanced our appreciation for each other as people, because we appreciate that we need each other to do this. Emotionally, of course, when it comes to parenting, of course, but even professionally, in terms of individuals, in terms of our mental and creative capabilities, we respect each other, because we can see that he brings something to the table that I don't, and I see he brings something to the table that I don't as a professional.
Right. Coming to parenting and parenthood, how has it changed your life? Has it made you calmer as a person?
It's made me more anxious as a person. Like that kind of sleep that you sleep without a child is a sleep that I will never have again.
Right.
And that's just something that goes. There's an element of worry in your life. And I see that in my mother today. She's still, today, her children are all grown up. We have our own children. And she still worries about us, She doesn't worry about Inaya because she's like, I know you're worried about Inaya, but I will constantly worry about you. She worries about my brother. She worries about my sister. And I see that that is just part and parcel of being a parent. Anxiety is a part and parcel. Now, how you cope with it is up to you, and how one generally deals with stress. Of course, it's amazing. Of course, it's incredibly rewarding. Of course, it unlocks a part of your heart that has been locked before this. Of course, it is not required to be a parent or mother at all to complete you as a woman, etc., etc. We know that. But once you start that journey, it changes you forever. And I think it makes you selfless. I myself was far more selfish as a person until Inaya came along. I would never imagine even something simple like shopping for clothes for someone else is something I've never done. And now, honestly, the last time on our summer holiday when we went to London, Kunal was shopping for himself and I was shopping for herself, and I bought like 2 things for myself because I was just like thinking and getting excited about shopping for someone else, which is very bizarre. So it changes you in little ways. You become the best version of yourself because you want to be a good role model for your child. Then you slowly but surely become your own self again because you realize you cannot sustain being perfect. It's not possible. So it's a transition. It's a up and down. It's like you find your way and it constantly changes.
Right. These days, kids are spending a lot of time on screen, whether it's TV or their mobile phones or iPads. So, as a parent and an author, how do you think can we raise readers or, make kids interested in reading books?
I think children are very smart and very intuitive, and they absorb. And what they see becomes far more of an important lesson for them. It's in terms of what is required for them to do, what is appropriate for them to do, what is good. And instead of you saying, read a book, do your homework, get some exercise, don't watch TV, eat some broccoli, it's far more effective to just live your life in the way that you would want them to live their lives. And I constantly go back to my father by saying that I honestly, in 35 years that I had him in my life, never heard him raise his voice, never saw him lose his temper. And he just never did that. He never felt the need to do that. And I understood that it's not cool to do that. So similarly, I, of course, have lost my temper because I'm not, it's hard not to, if you have impatience in you. But when it comes to good eating, when it comes to exercise, when it comes to balance of screen time versus reading, I make sure that Inaya sees me doing all of that. And we've surrounded her with books, and I read to her every day. She reads herself. And, she sees I'm not on my phone when I'm with her. And she understands. And I'm a disciplinarian. I understand that I have to sometimes be the bad guy to enforce the rules. And she may not like it. But if I say no, 5 more minutes and you have to get off your iPad, or you can't watch TV when you're eating food, let's have a conversation, let's read a book. She understands that that's how it needs to be. And you don't have to like everything. It doesn't always have to be like, yay, but sometimes you just have to do things because they're good for you.
So earlier you said that you read children's books to her at night. So what kind of books do you read to her? Any particular book that's her favorite?
Oh my God. Yes. And, if you spend time with children, at least my child wants to read the same book again and again and again. And you're just like, bus, I can't do it anymore, which is why Audible is great. Because you don't have to read it. You can just put it on and you don't even have to listen to it yourself. You can do something else. And your child can be engaged by someone really with all the theatrics of telling a story. There's music and there's sound effects and there's a beautiful, accomplished voice narrating a story to you. And what's wonderful now is when she says, no, Mama, I want you to read me a story. We can still go to Audible and we can still have Inni and Bobo in her parents' voice, telling her this. Otherwise, I've literally gone hoarse reading. And now she's into chapter books, So it's like literally 70 pages a night, which is a lot of reading. And I've like lost my voice. So it's challenging. I'll do it for her because I love reading and I love the sound of my own voice. But, I really appreciate Audible.
Right. Okay, coming back to your audiobook, how was the experience of recording your children's book?
I loved it, again, because I do genuinely love the sound of my own voice. And I like articulating things, and I like reading out loud, and I like speaking out loud, and I like conversation, and I do a lot of talking. So I always love going to a professional setup where you have this lovely studio and this mic that just captures every nuance of every expression, that you do. And to capture it, and it's really magical to then hear it back, and it sounds so much nicer than when you're just talking and telling someone is. So all of it, I really enjoyed the process. I also enjoy dubbing when it comes to, films that you've done or shows, and you get an opportunity to better your performance by dubbing it. You really appreciate sound.
Talking about stories and, storytelling, what are your opinion on, the importance of storytelling, especially for children? And do you think children's stories should always have a message to them?
I think that it's very useful to tell stories because they engage the child, firstly. And practical relevance of that is when you're in a car, when you're doing bedtime, when it's mealtime, and you need them to stay in one place and not get distracted. If you have the ability to tell a good story, you will capture their, physically, as well as creatively and imaginatively. You also unlock their imagination. You make them more creative people. And so many things can be a story, just in terms of at night, if you're going to sleep and you say, tell me a story. You don't need to think of like some incredible story with some incredible lesson or moral lesson or teaching to it. It can just be what you did through the day, especially for young children. Anything can be engaging for them. Anything can become dramatic for them in the style that you tell it. So, as I said, a lot of parents feel it's difficult to articulate stories and they feel like, "Arey, hame nahi aata hai." But honestly, your children don't want much. They're not expecting like Shakespeare, and they're not expecting, Meryl Streep to be narrating the story. They want you to tell it in your own way. And they want that. They also appreciate the time that you are focused on them. They can see that your attention is not distracted and that you're really with them. And what are stories? Stories are just history or like a way of remembering. It's an easy way of remembering stuff, and some of it is fiction, some of it is non-fiction. It just helps you to retain information, access information, imagine, problem solve, morality. So many things are unconsciously learned through storytelling. And it's not important to have a lesson at the end of every story. I'm saying just the idea of listening to a story, telling a story, reading a book, listening to a book, in by itself is a learning. As we grow older, we understand that the hero may not be heroic. It may be a bad guy. He may be doing something wrong. He may get away with it. It's not about getting a lesson. It should be essentially something that engages you and something that excites you and something that entertains you.
And that's the talking of children's book, that's the beauty of children's book, that it's being read by not just kids, it's also being read by parents. It's a time for bonding for both parents and the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, yeah.
I mean, so that I from self-promotion, I just got Harari's book, Yuval Harari's book for children, which he's written, called Us. Because I've tried many times to read Sapiens cover to cover, and I've enjoyed it and I've read it. But I feel like if you truly want to understand something, you should be able to explain it to, a 4-year-old. Why is the sky blue? Tell me as a 4-year-old. And if you don't know something, you cannot make it so simple. So I want things to be simple. I think that if you can do that, then you have a deeper understanding of something.
Talking of books, are you an avid reader? And what kind of genre do you like reading? Do you read more fiction or non-fiction?
I've started fully lying by saying I'm an avid reader. And if Kunal was here, he would roll his eyes and say, "You are an avid book collector." I buy books and I look at them and I keep them on my bookshelf, and then I take them down and I open them and I start to read them, and then I get distracted. And one of my my New Year resolutions for 2022, which will now be my New Year resolution for 2023, is to read more. I have started reading more. And I really attribute that to I've become a writer. And when you become a writer, people start sending you literature to read. And so I'm so excited now because I don't have to buy it, because Kunal has banned me from buying books, so I'm banned from buying books, but now people send me books so I can read them. And it's very exciting. I love reading books, and I love all kinds of books. I'm usually reading fiction and non-fiction at the same time because I feel there's a lot to learn and also when you hear it. And a lot of these books are on Audible as well, or audiobooks, especially Harari, for example. You focus and you absorb information. Then when you read a fictional book, there's so much that you get from a style of writing that is evocative and imaginatory, and you improve your vocabulary. There's so many. I think it's really wonderful.
And lastly, Soha, what are you working on next? Are you planning to write more books, or are you planning to venture into films? What exactly is there on?
All of the above. I want to now start doing more things. I was quite absorbed with being a parent for a few years. Luckily, over the past 2 years, I did 2 shows which I really enjoyed, in Hush Hush and Kaun Banegi Shikhawati. And I found the confidence to step away from my daughter and realize she's not going to fall apart. I'm not going to fall apart. The world will continue, and we'll all be all right. So I'm going to act more. Writing has always been something that I've enjoyed. And now through children's books, I feel like, because it takes up less time to write a children's book, of course, than a full-fledged book, that I can write more. And hopefully that will now give me the motivation to write another full adult book again. So all of these things are happening, as well as working out and traveling and investing in friendships. And, all of it takes time. And as you know, the days just fly by, and, you don't know what you've done with your time.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Soha. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you.